the one, the only, Ben Sion. Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today we're doing Maseches Gittin, Daf Zayin, number 27. An interesting discussion today. What happens if someone's carrying a get? Someone is an emissary to give a get and he drops it, he loses it. For how long could it be lost? Do we assume that he found a different get if he finds it? Interesting halachas. We'll talk about the differences between a Talmud Chacham. It's a Surah Mirabban. A rabbinical student has, in some ways, more believability than a regular person in terms of recognizing things. We'll get into the discussion of Simonim. If you give a simon, which is not considered an amazing simon, basically you give a sign that you recognize something, but it's not amazing. Is that a good sign, midoraisa or midrabanan? The Gemara gets into that. The Mishnah says, maybe get, but avad himanu. He brings a get as a shliach, but avad himanu gets lost. Matzah la'alter, if he finds it right away, the Gemara will define how much time is right away, kosher. You can take the get and give it to the woman. If you allow a puzzle, if it's lost for too long, you can no longer give that get to the woman. Matzah b'chafisa b'dluskama. If you found it, we'll see the Gemara says it's a flask. Or b'dluskama, a satchel, a briefcase or something like that. Imakiro kosher. So there's two ways of learning these words. Imakiro kosher. Is he makir the briefcase or is he makir the get? Right. The first way, a lot of Rishonim, the Rashba says, makiro, you recognize the box that it was in. It was in a flask, or it was in a messenger bag, or it was in a briefcase. If you recognize the briefcase, and it's a good get, and you realize you put it in there. The other explanation, Rashi says, makiro kosher, it's a new statement, right? If you found one statement is you find it in a satchel, it's okay. And the other new halacha, if you recognize the get, doesn't say how you recognize it. If you recognize it, it's also kosher. We'll discuss this machlokes in greater detail based on the sugya in Ian of Ben Sion. The Gemara said, Raminhu, a question for Abraisa, what's a gidei nashim shachurei avadim? Let's say you find Mishnah Baba Kama from Metzia says, you find gidei nashim shachurei avadim, you find a get of a woman, or you find emancipation documents. Daitiki are basically statements of a person on his deathbed. A shchiv mirah, that he's willing to give some or all of his possessions to someone. Matanos, or a shtar, a document says that he's giving a gift of land, let's say, to someone. Vishovrin, or you find receipts, right? A receipt someone paid off his debt. Harezelo yachzir, you can't give it back to the person, right? The get you would think you give to the woman. Shechor ever give to, you don't give it to these people. Shani Omer. Really, they were written by the husband, they were written by the giver, the person who's supposed to give it. And he decided not to give it, and then it fell out of his hands. Ha'amar implies that if he says tnu, if the husband or the giver would say tnu, he says, you found it? Okay, give it. No stin, we would give it. Even after a long time, we're not worried that it's a different document. Amar lo kash. Rabbi says no question, no difference in the Mishnah here in the Mishnah Bamatzia. Our Mishnah is talking about a case where there's a lot of people passing by. There's caravans, a lot of buses going by. So it's very possible it could have been the get of somebody else. That's why if you lose it momentarily, it's okay. But if you lose it for a certain amount of time, we're worried it might be someone else's get, and you can't give it. The Mishnah Bamatzia is talking about where there's not a lot of people passing by. It's a remote town, and therefore we're not worried that it was someone else's shtar or someone else's get. The Gemara says, even in a place where there are a lot of people passing by, right? The get has to be from a city where we know there's two people with the same name, and their wives have the same name also, where it's entirely possible that it wasn't a get for this man's wife, it was a get for another man's wife. And you can't, obviously, it has to be written lishma for this woman. But if we don't know that there's two Yosef and Shimon, so we don't have to assume that. We would say there's only one person in this town, and you give the get. If you don't say the stipulation, Kasha the Rabbah, we have a question of one teaching of Rabbah, another Rabbah's teaching. There was a story of a certain get The Ishtakach Beidina de Rav Huna. It was found in the basement of Rav Huna. It said the place where the get was given in a place called Shviri, that was the name of the town, which was near the Rachis river. Amar Rav Huna says, and the names were the same. There were two people who had the same name in the town. Amar Rav Huna, Choshin l'shnei Shviri. We're worried, Rav Huna said, we're worried about the possibility that, yes, the names exactly were the same. There's two people we know have the same name, but we're worried about that there's another town named Shviri also, and it came from that town, so you can't give the get. Rav Chisda said to Rabbah, who was a student, Rav Chisda was a contemporary of Rav Huna, so he said to Rabbah, go out and contradict what Rav Huna paskin. Go out and look into it, what Rav Huna's psak. Because I'm going to ask you to find me a source to resolve the question at night. Rav Huna nafak dak ve'eshka. Rav Huna went out. Oh, this is Rav Huna here. Sorry. I got it wrong. The Orta boy minach Rav Huna. Rav Huna is going to ask you, who's a contemporary of Chris, is going to ask you about this, whether he did the right thing or not. Poga ayin ba the Orta boy minach Rav Huna. Nafak dak ve'achashkach. Rav Chisda went and he searched. Rabbah went out and searched for an answer, and he found that it's not. And Mishnah says, "Kol ma'aseh based in hareza yachzir." Any document which was affirmed in Beis Din. We talked about kiyum shtaros. That's the type of document that was affirmed. It was approved by Beis Din. Hareza yachzir. It's certified that a person owes someone money. You give it back to the creditor. V'ha beidina de Rav Huna the kamakom shasharos mitzuyas dami. The place where Rav Huna they found the get, right? That was a place where a lot of people passed by. He was in a popular town. V'kapashet yachzir. And he answered. Right, Rav Huna answered. The Mishnah, Kamaisa Beis Din, answered, says you give it back. Alma ihochsaku shnei Yosef and Shimon bi'arachas in v'lo. Right, he disproved Rav Huna's ruling. He disproved Rav Huna's ruling from this Mishnah that the only time we say you give it back is if there's reason to assume. Sorry, the only time you don't give it back, right? The Stam Mishnah says yachzir, right? So you normally would give back. The only time you wouldn't give it back is if there's some assumption, right, that there were caravans passing by, buses passing by, and it's very possible it came from someone else who had the same name. Avad Rabba Uvda Bahu Gita. Rabba himself did authorize a certain get. It was found, someone lost it, in a place where they were making flax and pabudisa, kishmaitze, like he's taught. Some say it was found in a place where they were soaking the flax. Even though there was a place where the two people had the same name and two wives are the same, it was a place where, when you soak the flax, not a lot of people pass by there. So therefore, that's why he gave it back. Now some say he was talking about a place, not where they were washing or they were soaking the flax, a place where they were selling the flax, which is the marketplace. A lot of people are passing by. And the reason they gave it back is because we don't know that there's two people with the same name. There were a lot of people, but still you need both things. You need a lot of people to pass by. You also need to know for a fact, not like the case of Rav Huna where he said maybe there's another place like Shviri. No, it has to be there's another place like this, and also the names could possibly be there are two people with the same name, and also they have the same wife. They have the same name. Their wife has the same name. Reb Zera Rami Bastis and Abraisa. Reb Zera also, he asked in our Mishnah, not from another Mishnah, but he asked from a Braisa, Mashani, and he answers, Tan, our Mishnah says, maybe get v'avarei. He brings a get and he loses it. Alter kosher. If he finds it right away, it's kosher. If he doesn't find the way, it's puzzle. V'raminu, a Braisa says, a get isha b'shuk. You find the get of isha in the marketplace. Bisman Shabal Moda, if the husband admits that he didn't give it to his wife, Yachsi, or he gave it to the wife, Yachsi Isha, he can already give it back to the wife. Ain't a Bal Moda. If the husband says, no, I didn't give it yet, Lo Yachsi, Lo Lozeh, Lozeh, you don't give it, neither the husband or the wife. We're not sure, did he give it or not give it. We can infer from this brisa, on top of Kazayim and Beis, Bisman Shabal Moda, Miyas Yachsir. The time when the husband says, I didn't give it, or says, I gave it, in fact, says, I gave it to the woman, you give it to the woman. Miyad Yachsir Lisha, Afil's Manruba doesn't stipulate what type of time period, even if it took a long time to recover this, we give it to the woman. Maybe it was from a different man. Shani, and he answered, he gave the same answer that Rabbah gave. One Mishnah, our Mishnah is talking about a case where the Shayaros and Matsuyos, a lot of people who come back and forth, so it could have been from another town. And in the case in the Brisa where you do trust the husband, there's not a lot of people who pass by. Ika da Amri, some say that Reb Zera agrees 100% with Rabbah, that again you only don't return it when you have two factors, when there's Shayaros Mitzuyos, and also we know there's two people with the same name, and the wife has the same name. Mika da Amri, some say Avagav, Reb Zera says Avagav de lo hochsaku lo lahader. Right? Again, he says only Shayaros Mitzuyos. That's good enough. Even if we don't know that there's two people with the same name, you still shouldn't get good back. Like Rav Huna, that we're concerned that there's someone with the same name. Upliga de Rabbah, and he argued on Rabbah. Bishlama de Rabbah lo Amar Reb Zera. It makes sense why Rabbah didn't ask on our Mishnah, like Reb Zera from the Brisa. Masisin Ali actually, it's better to ask from a Mishnah. Mishnah is more authoritative than a Brisa. Other Reb Zera, my time lo Amar Karabah. Why did Reb Zera not ask from a Mishnah? Why did he come with a Brisa? Does it say in the Mishnah Bava Metzia if he says give it, that feels man meruba, even if it's a long time after? You can infer from it if he says give it, you would give it, because the out there. Like our Mishnah says, you give it only if you found it right away. It doesn't say how long. Maybe it's really talking about when you found it after a long period of time. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar, Rabbi Yirmiyah gives a different answer. Kagon the Kamri Adam, right? A question on the Brisa and a question about Mitzia on our Mishnah. So other answers offered, besides the fact that one case is talking about Shayaros Mitzuyas and one is Shayaros not Mitzuyas. Not a lot of people coming back and forth. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar, Kagon the Kamri Adam, Ma'olam lo chasamnu ela al get echad shal Yosef ben Shimon. The case where we can give it back in Bava Metzia and the Brisa is where the Adam come before us and say, we only signed on one document. Yes, there are two people with the name Yosef ben Shimon. There are Shayaros Mitzuyos, but we only signed on one document. We don't have to assume there's another document with the same people's names, and the signees, the witnesses have the same names also. So Gemara's question: what's obviously if they said testify we only signed on one document, right? We should believe them. Maybe the man and the woman have the same name. It's two men have the same name. Two women have the same name, and the two Adam have the same name. And maybe it's a completely different get, and it's possible because it wasn't real lishma. We don't worry about that. Ravashi Amar, third answer. Ravashi says, "Going to Kamar nekav yeshbo besad os plonis." The case about Metzia and the Brisa is where he gives a simon muvakl. So he says there's a small hole in the get next to a specific letter. The havalei simon muvak. It's considered a professional simon. V'davka besad os plonis. The havalei simon muvak, where it's considered basically an irrefutable sign. Aval nekav ba'alma. It's just say in the get there's a hole. Lo. Misafkale, when he said this, is simonim idoraisa idorabana, right? Get is a doraisa then. So a regular simon saying there's a nekev, a hole in the get, is some sort of identifying mark. But there could be other gittin with holes in them. So it's a reliable simon, but the question is it proof? Is it a raya, midoraisa, or midorabana? Some say it's only rabbanan, so therefore it wouldn't work for get midoraisa, and that's why he only allowed a simon mufak. Rabbi Barachana, irkas like Gita be midrash. Rabbi Barachana, he was sitting in the base medrash and he was delivering a get, and he lost the get in the base medrash. Amar isimana isli begave itvias ena isli begave. He told the people that found the get, I can identify it. I have a simon, and also if you don't rely on the simon, I have tvias ayin. Tvias ayin is basically that I recognize it. there's nothing identifying mark on it, but I recognized it based on my own recognition. Is the begave ahadrua nahalish? So they give it back to Amar lo yadana. He said, I don't know. Imishim simon ahadrua. Did they give it back because I gave a simon? Because I have a simonam daraisa. He gave a simon, like saying there was a hole in the document, not a hole next to a letter. Imishim tviyasena, or it was because he recognized it. In that case, it would only be Surah Rabbanan, a rabbinical scholars believe that the Gemara Matzia says only when it comes to a Matzia, when it comes to an Aveda, something that's lost, the only person who's relied upon to tell the truth, or Tviyas Ayin, yeah, it looks like it's mine. I recognize that one. I recognize that sock. It was a little, it's got it's a little worn out on the bottom. I recognize that sock. We only rely on a Surah Rabbanan, and probably the reason is because people who study Talmud all day, they don't lie as much. They're more honest. Vimlav Apostle. If it's not Apostle, Tana Rabbanan. Ezehu Shalola Alter. Right? If you find it after a certain amount of time, it's Apostle. What's considered the amount of time? Rab Nasan Omar Shashah Kadesh Tabar Shayara V'Tishra. The amount of time needed, that it's considered a long time, is that another bus comes and people get off the bus. Or Shimon ben Elazar Omer Kadesh Adam Omer V'Roeh Shalavar Sham Adam. You have to make sure that no one passed by. If someone passes by, that's too long. Yesh Omrim Shalosh Shah Adam Sham. Some people say passing by is okay. Someone who passed by and stood there, and it's possible he lost a different get, a similar get. Rabbi Omer Kadei Lichtov Es HaGet. He says it depends on how long it takes to write a get, because someone could have passed by and wrote a get. He says Rizah says the amount of time is to read a get. Acherim Omrim, there's a Meir Kadei Lichtovo Lekroso, both to write it and to read it, to combine. Afilu Shah Veishbo Simonim. Even if it's considered a long time, but it has simanim, you can testify the simanim. The amri nekev yeshbo b'saros plonis, right? Like we said before, someone muvak, an identifying sign that's irrefutable. There's a small hole next to that letter. However, the Gemara qualifies if a regular simon about the document itself, the amri arach v'gutz, it's either a long document, it's a short document, it's written in big letters or small letters. Those are not simanim because it's very commonplace to have those. I would venture to say these are simanim, they're just not siman muvak, and we don't know if simanim is the right to Rabbanan. Matzah kosher, the Brisa continues, Matzah kosher bekis ba'arniki with tabal. Let's find the get that was lost. It's tied to a money pouch, or an arniki, a wallet, or tabat, a person's ring, their wedding band. Osher matzu ben kela, chav kadam aleph. People think that it's not okay for a man to wear a ring, especially in the ultra-Orthodox society. People look down upon men who wear wedding bands. The problem is there's many brises, you look all over Masechah Sukkah, Navav. Men didn't just wear one ring. Tabosav biyadav. He had many rings. What rings are we talking about? Men have many rings. That's normal. It's normal for men to have rings. It's all over the brises and the Mishnayos. Shemazu ben Caleb, where he finds it among his Kalim. Afilu zman meruba kosher. He might find it among his utensils, his forks, his knives. Right? It's kosher. Itmar Rav Yehuda Amar B'Shmuel halacha shalosha adam sham. The amount of time, Shmuel says, is like the opinion that says that a person passed by and he stood there. Rav Barachana Amar Rav Yisrael Bar Shmuel halacha shalo avra adam sham. He says no. Even the amount of time for a person to pass by and not to stop there is considered long enough that we're uncertain to do with the get. These are two Amoraim, and the names of Shmuel. Why didn't they say halacha like the Tana? The Gemara says Mishum da'afchil, because in the Brisa it says Lezer Shimon says one opinion, the Yeshomrim say the other opinion. Some flip Lezer Shimon and the Yeshomrim, so therefore they wanted to be clear what the halacha was. Matzu b'chafisa ub'dluskama. My chafisa, what's considered a chafisa? Amar Rachana chemas ktana. It's considered a small flask. My dluskama. Tlika desap is considered a satchel of old men, a briefcase. Only old men use briefcases or messenger bags. Don't get caught using a messenger bag if you're a man, or using a satchel, or using a man purse, a merce. If you're a man, you don't carry a briefcase either. If you're a man, you carry a knapsack. Real men wear knapsacks. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion, where I discuss really it's the end of this Gemara over here, and really goes back to the beginning of the Daf, the Mishnah, which is either two halachas or one halacha. It says imakiro. He recognizes what? He recognizes the get, or he recognizes the satchel, or he recognizes the flask. Which one is it? We'll explain this machlokes Rashi and the Rashba. We'll explain the machlokes, and I'll tell you who I side with. Ian of Ben Sion coming up next.